Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Meep Meep Nation. We are joined today again with Caleb Hopkins and David Harrison, who may be one of our new regulars. But we're coming off a pretty rough week. UTSA losing 16-29 to number 23 Tulane Green Wave. Definitely not the game we kind of hoped to see. I think Tulane was obviously favored to win that game, but I think there were definitely a lot of opportunities for us to take the win, take the advantage there. But unfortunately, some echoes from the Houston loss with the interceptions, turnovers, we weren't able to pull it out. David, Caleb, how are you guys doing? What are y'all's thoughts on the last game?
I think a lot of things kind of just everything kind of fell one way, and it kind of sucked. Just the end of the season, and everything just kind of fell that way. But the defense looked really good. I think they played some of the best defense they played all year. I mean, whenever you have the defense out there for more than half the game, it makes it really hard. And it just seemed like after that first drive, it was just the defenders were just everywhere. I mean, they were getting pressure on Frank. They were covering the receivers, and it was just like they couldn't find any way to get the offense going. They broke off two big runs, but besides that, it was just like kind of dink and dunk yardage here and there, and it just made it really hard to get anything going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, last week I sounded as confident as I could be in our team pulling out the victory. Could not have been more wrong. Obviously, a lot of it attributes to the heavy amount of turnovers, but hats off to Tulane. They are a phenomenal football team. Going to be pulling for them this weekend. Lots to still look forward to for UTSA football with the bowl game.
100%. Yeah, I think the biggest disappointment, at least for me, was just that it just seemed that there wasn't a whole lot of adjustments that were made on the offense. Again, kind of PTSD from that Houston game. It seemed like that early interception kind of set the tone going in, and then just a lot of those drop catches and just issues going in with the offense really seemed to hold us down. Again, 29-16 is not a bad loss against a ranked team. But again, UTSA has yet to beat a ranked team. We've yet to beat a P5 program that's above 0.500. So something that we still have to kind of get over. What are y'all's thoughts on our weak points from the last game? Obviously, defense seemed to be outstanding, really held us in until the last quarter. I guess going to the bowl game, we don't know what bowl game we're going into. A lot of people are saying potentially Big 12 matchup, P5 matchup. Not sure yet. But what does UTSA need to do to sort of make ourselves competitive and hopefully get that first bowl win?
I mean, if you look at it, we lost the turnover battle 5-1 and still only lost by 13 points, which if you look at that in the big picture, like that's really impressive by our defense to hold us in for as long as they did. Mm-hmm. And I think that's going to be one key thing. I think defense wins games. And so I feel like if UTSA can keep that defense going and just make the few adjustments they need to on offense, I don't see any reason why we don't get our first bowl win this year. I mean, this is the best I've seen. I think best I've seen the defense look in the 5 years I've been here. And so I think it's going to be one of those things that they keep the defense rolling the way they are and just make those few adjustments on offense. I don't see any reason why they don't get their first one.
100%. Kill?
Yeah. Again, I know it's going to be a regular point we're going to talk about today, but keeping turnovers down. It was big against Tulane. It was big against Houston. It was big in our bowl game last year. We just got to get out of our own heads, focus on holding on to the ball.
Yeah,
and I think the hard thing. Oh, sorry about that.
No, go ahead, David.
I think the hard thing comes into play, especially against Tulane. And I mean, if you look at it in any of our bowl games, when Frank is rushed as much as he was, where he was put under pressure constantly, you end up trying to make plays that you probably shouldn't, and then you get down, and then you're trying to do it again and again and again. And I mean, eventually that's just going to happen, just because, I mean, when you're down, you're losing, you want to win, so you're going to try and make the heroic play. And I think that leads to turnovers as well, just because, I mean, when you're trying to make throws that you wouldn't normally make, like I didn't see him make any of those against when we played South Florida. And so
Yeah.
I think when you get down and you're constantly under pressure, it makes it really hard to play sound football.
Yeah, David, I think you made a good point before this about how Tulane's defensive coordinator, he was with Troy. UTSA obviously lost to them in the bowl game last year. Whoever, whatever he's doing with UTSA, he definitely seems to have kind of a hone on how to pinpoint our weaknesses. What do you think he's doing that seems to make him able to get into us really easily, as opposed to a lot of the other teams we played in the AAC?
I mean, if you look at it, I mean, I don't think I ever saw a team get as much pressure on Frank as Tulane did. Like, I think most of the year he was kind of able to run around. He was able to escape the pocket and be able to run for 5-6 yards every time he had to scramble. And Tulane didn't allow it to happen. Like, anytime he got out of the pocket, there was someone there to match up with him. Mm-hmm. And so I think whatever Tulane's doing, whatever Troy did last year, they see that and they realize, hey, if we can contain Frank, you can contain their whole offense, because as soon as you take out that part of the game, there's only so many other ways they can go, and then they have that locked down. Like, you look at the passing game, like, there weren't a lot of open receivers for Frank to throw to, and then on top of that, he has to scramble, and then you got someone there. It's just like, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah, I guess, I think one of the plays that a lot of people had an issue with was sort of, I think, going into the second half, interception on a fake punt. Oscar Cardenas gets the ball. He ends up throwing it. Doesn't go the way we wanted it to. What do you think was sort of the mindset behind that? I mean, I'm assuming obviously, we want to try to get some touchdown before you go into the second half. Seemed almost like a desperation move that just didn't work out in our favor. And after that, really seemed to set the tone going into the second half. I mean, third quarter, no touchdowns on either side. Defense was definitely playing lights out, holding fort. And then after that, 6-6 in the fourth quarter, Tulane was able to just, eke out with the win right there. What do you guys think was happening going into the second half? I mean, I know looking at the camera, looking at the live broadcast on ABC, definitely seemed like Traylor was getting pretty frustrated after the first quarter. I think going to the second quarter with two touchdowns by Tulane that we really didn't have an answer to. It seemed like just the whole momentum kind of got lost. And I don't know, again, for me at least, really seemed to have echoes of that Houston game in the early season.
I mean, if you look at it, like, that's one of those plays that you try and pull off to put the momentum on your side, because at that point, all the momentum was with Tulane. Just they had almost three turnovers by that point. Yep. And so, I mean, all the momentum's on their side. So you're trying to do anything to give your team some momentum, and you're trying to give your team the thought of, hey, we just did this, now let's continue it. And so I think it's one of those things that you pull out and you're like, this could work and it would be really good for our team, or this could not work and it could just have the complete opposite effect. And I think if they would have pulled that off going into the second half, you come out with a completely different mindset. But I think it's just one of those things that I don't hate the call. I just think it's one of those things that it was a momentum shifter. And so, I mean, it was either going to go one way or the other, and I think it just didn't go our way that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're towards that area in the final 5 minutes of the first half. We were chasing our losses. We had just had the fumble from Kavorian that led to a Tulane touchdown to put us down 20 instead of 3. And then we had the opportunity with the ball back. We started getting down to midfield, and we wanted to get closer to that touchdown than the field goal, or we really wanted to, score there rather, and pulled out the move with Oscar that didn't necessarily need to happen. I haven't seen them try to pull off that kind of play before through Oscar passing. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if it worked, he's a genius. But it ultimately, that failed play led to another field goal that then put us down almost 2 touchdowns to start the second quarter with Tulane getting the ball.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we forced them in that second half. We forced them to punt to start off, but we didn't do much better to try to bring the momentum back.
Yeah, it was definitely a gut punch type game, just because of how close it was. I mean, no, not taking anything away from Tulane. They're a phenomenal team, obviously, and if we were playing with next year's championship kind of schedule, they would have been kind of the G5 pick. UTSA, we ran more plays than Tulane, had more total yards, had the ball longer, but I guess just kind of playing cute and maybe playing more risky plays that we didn't need to play definitely killed the momentum and seemed to keep us down. Unfortunately, 16-29 score maybe makes it look a little worse than it could have been, especially going into the second half where, it was a one touchdown game after that. UTSA, we ran more plays than Tulane, had more total yards, had the ball longer, and it seemed really like a neck and neck game. I mean, if you look at the stats outside of those few kind of cute plays, I guess, or risky plays that we had early on, it could have been anyone's game. Unfortunately, we just weren't able to pull out with it. Now that we don't have the championship bid anymore, going into our last game, bowl game, what does UTSA need to do to win?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is going out and playing with a carefree offense. I think, like, kind of looking back at it, looking at the Tulane game, they feel like they played really – at the beginning, they played really conservative, trying to not turn the ball over. Then that just causes more turnovers. I think you got to go out there and play the way they did against South Florida. Like, you got to go out there and just start throwing the ball around, run the ball. Don't try and not make mistakes, because that's when the most mistakes are going to come into play. I think the defense played fantastic, and if they keep that play up, they're going to be fine. So I think just the offense needs to just go out and play carefree. I think that's going to be the biggest key for them.
Yeah. Caleb?
Yeah. Like he said, defense has been playing well. Offense just, I don't want to say they need to take some chances, because that ultimately led to the turnovers in this last weekend. Mm-hmm. But don't necessarily be afraid. You don't need to play game manager football from Frank.
Yeah.
Run it when you can. When that doesn't work, get it through the air. Play comfortable. This is going to be Frank's last game. We really need to focus on what it is that we want, what works well, mm-hmm. and do it for Frank.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my view, it really seemed like after that first quarter, we were really playing not to lose rather than to win. And I think you kind of got that feeling with the whole team where, after, you have those interceptions and just drop passes, you start to get scared. And I don't know. I don't know if it's because, like, it seems that this is a common thing when we play primetime, like on a big channel in a big game in front of a big venue. I don't know if it's a guts kind of thing or just something to do with, I mean, we had some people saying, trailers out here going on all these interviews. Maybe, people are just not having their head in the game. But it seems like, again, when it comes down to these big games, we're not able to show up. I mean, if we're playing a team, UTSA seems to be the kind of team right now that if we're playing a mediocre or a bad team, we can absolutely like wreck them, right? Like Tulane, you look at some of their scores for the previous games, it's like they were close. I mean, they barely beat ECU, who, isn't a good team right now. And it just seems like the fact they were ranked and this was on ABC, I don't know if that got into their heads or I don't know, but definitely seemed uncharacteristic, especially with some of those risky plays. Not sure what happened. I mean, there's just so many variables. But we've got a few weeks to prep for that going into the bowl, and especially with a lot of the AAC teams that are coming in right now, there are plenty of them that are not going to be going into the bowl, and so we kind of have that hopefully still in front of us. And if we can get a bowl game, that's huge. I mean, if we get a bowl win with our current record, I would still count this as a successful season. And going into next year, Tulane, they'll probably be the favorites. How do you guys see us going to next year? I mean, obviously losing a ton of seniors, rumors about Traylor leaving. Personally, I don't think that's going to happen, but losing a lot of seniors, QB question, who's going to be leading up there, offensive line, obviously, how is that going to be, set up? Are we going to be able to be, someone who's still going to be able to pass, or are we going to be really run heavy? How do you see that going into next year and how this team performs?
I mean, I think Traylor did a really good job this year. You notice kind of the next man up mentality, like with a lot of those younger guys that did play this year. Like guys went down with injury, it was next man up, and they were ready and they came prepared. And so I think they're going to go into next year with kind of that same mentality. It's going to be, hey, if your guy's leaving, it's your turn. It's your time to shine. Mm-hmm. And I think Traylor prepared them for that really well this year, and I think it's just going to continue into next year. And I think kind of their biggest key is going to be offensive line, just because I know they're losing a few. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to be kind of the biggest key for UTSA, especially with what's going to be a new quarterback in the system, whether it's Owen or somebody else. They're going to be a new quarterback into our system, and so I think you have to give them as many keys as possible in order to succeed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have a decent amount of younger wide receivers that are going to be back this year or next year. We've got some decent running backs that should still be returning. Just what does it look like for that next quarterback? Is he going to have time to throw to those weapons? Is that running back going to be able to run behind a decent offensive line coming back next year? That is going to be the bigger question mark. Defense always seems to be a you never truly know what you're going to get out of them at first. We've got some absolute studs on defense, and it's going to be just based on I think it's more so play calling on that side as to whether they continue to ball out or not.
Yeah, 100%. Right now it seems to be a battle between Marburger and McCohen. Rumors out there right now, Marburger might be transferring out. McCohen obviously seems to have the lead position right now. He played for Tennessee, did really well given the circumstances. Didn't get a whole lot of play time once Frank came in, but definitely still seems to be the favorite. There's no real competitor to him currently, at least to my knowledge. Caleb, what are your thoughts going into next year? Who do you think is going to be the first string QB? And I think does UTSA need to start looking at that transfer portal to maybe start building some depth in the QB position?
I think you should always see what's out there for you. As far as QBs, I do heavily think that we're going to be shifting to Owen McCown. But, he might have a solid backup behind him, or we might have some QB competition going into fall. And I think we're more likely to have someone that's going to push him through fall camp in the portal than what we currently have. I feel really confident in what we have with him. And as far as backups go, if we can get some talent behind him, it's certainly going to help.
And, also, UTSA, we've had, more NFL scouts on campus this year than I think we've ever had before. And so that kind of thing definitely makes a pretty big impact. UTSA right now, 8-4, got a bowl game ahead of us.
Gabriel Rodriguez asks, what's going on with the transfer portal? Any rumors? It's still pretty early. I think you've seen a lot of teams this week at least start to announce players that are interested in leaving. But with UTSA's situation as it is, what do you think the attrition rate is going to be? Outside of obviously the seniors graduating, you think we keep most of the guys? I mean, I know Traylor is someone who's been going a lot of interviews, but outside of that, we haven't fortunately seen a whole lot of talk of guys thinking about leaving.
Yeah. So, I mean, big thing here is we still have a little bit of time before the transfer portal truly opens up. I'm not sure on who's getting contacted by who. It opens December 4th. Mm-hmm. So we don't know what our coaching situation is going into next year, or maybe the players do, and it's not been announced.
Yeah.
But lots of weigh in on natural attrition. Are there people? How many people do I have ahead of me in the depth chart? Can I get that elsewhere? Will I get more playing time elsewhere? Will I be able to be closer to home at this school versus that school? One that gets overlooked in a lot of the other sports. Do these athletes have girlfriends at these other schools that they're going to go transfer to? That's happened quite a bit in the last few years. No real rumors here. We simply don't know, and it's way too early at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, I'm not somebody who is super educated on, I guess, the politics that happen within the locker rooms and within the coaching offices. But I know last year with the whole thing that happened with Zakari and a lot of players, even Frank, right? There was visible, proof that we had big P5 programs reaching out, offering pretty big, contracts or whatever you want to call it, outside of the transfer portal being open to our players. And I think what was kind of interesting was Traylor literally was like, hey, if you reach out to my player when you're not supposed to, I'm going to voice you out. And so I'm hoping that maybe caused some of the people to stop a bit and be like, hey, maybe I need to be careful about how quickly I reach out to some of these players. But it'll be interesting for sure. I think, just the fact that we are maybe not the top G5 this season, but we were competitive enough to be sort of in the NY6 bowl predictions and all of that hopefully, players can see the value in staying, especially with the amount of players we have in the NFL right now, despite being such a new program. Rowdy Runner on Twitter asks, what is next for UTSA athletics? I know transfer portal right now isn't open, but from a coaching perspective, there's a lot of rumors going on. Obviously, the Traylor A&M thing was a big deal last week that we talked about. Obviously, A&M ended up going with Duke's head coach, so we kind of ended up not having to worry too much about that. But Bobby Shafee on Facebook mentioned there was a MySA article that got posted where they literally just said, there's a lot of interviewing going on for someone who says they still have work to do at UTSA. And this was in reference to Jeff Traylor. And I think for the average fan, that can definitely be worrying, especially when you look at the last couple of seasons where the only big media rumor that was going around was him leaving to Texas State. And obviously we know how that went down. Texas State ends up flying out to San Antonio. They've got their entire board, the red carpet. They say essentially to Jeff Traylor, the position is yours. And Traylor ends up turning that down. And a lot of people, obviously McGuire was somebody that Jeff was pretty close with. So Jeff seems to have been someone who was looking out for his friends and assistant coaches, and that could have played a factor in him not accepting that role. But this season seems to be, I guess, a lot more rumors floating around, right? We had the A&M one come up, and then now Houston is a big one. I guess, Caleb, you probably have more knowledge on this, but, I'll bounce it off you, and then David, if you want to pitch in as well. How do you see Traylor navigating this right now? Do you think what he's doing is just leverage? Because for me, I think he's trying to make sure that we're able to get as much funds as possible. We don't have, obviously, a huge pool right now to take care of our assistant coaches. And then, obviously, NIL is something that we've got to work on as well. And then, that practice facility is something we've been talking about for seems like years now. Do you feel like him going for these interviews, especially with Houston? There was an article that came out that was saying this was his second interview with Houston. Is this something that he's doing just to, try to get more money flowing? Or does he maybe see, okay, my time at UTSA is up and, maybe it's best for me to head out?
Traylor, I think, has always been pretty big on taking care of those on his staff. I don't think any of what he's asking for, what he's trying to leverage for, is about lining his own pockets, rather making sure that those around him are taken care of, paying the coordinators, paying the support staff, getting more money for recruiting trips, of course, the covered practice facility. These are things he thinks are important for continuing the success of the football team, and he's leveraging it by taking these interviews because it's it's helping get the ball rolling. And I'm sure Lisa and the rest of UTSA athletics has been working hard on trying to get every dollar that they can. And so I don't think it's necessarily about getting Lisa or anyone at athletics to necessarily work harder than they already are, but it might entice those that they are trying to raise funds from for getting things done. Because the next guy that comes in, he's eventually going to be asking for the same exact stuff down the line. Mm-hmm. We just have the benefit of having a successful coach who is able to enjoy a lot of attention from other schools that want him to do what he's doing at our school over there. Yes, he's leveraging, but he kind of needs to.
Yeah, no, 100%. David?
I mean, I think the biggest thing here is you've got a school that before he came here was not very good, and he's turned into a nationally recognized program. Like, I go places all the time and people recognize UTSA. And so I think it's just one of those things that when you get to be from zero to hero, like we've done in the last 3 or 4 years, you're going to garner that attention. I think it just comes with the job. I think, especially at a group of 5 school, it's going to happen. It's going to keep happening as long as he's here, just because we're a successful program. Mm-hmm. And so I think it looks good on us because it's like, hey, he turned a program that was nothing when he got here to being a conference champion back-to-back and a bowl team. And that was very rare occurrence before he got here. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's just one of those things that fans of UTSA are just going to have to accept that, hey, if this is going to come about, it's going to keep coming about just because he's a big name in Texas. He was a big name in high school football, now a big name in college football. It's just going to happen. Anytime a Texas job opens up or anything around here, his name's going to get mentioned just because of how big of a name he is in Texas. So I think it's just one of those things.
Continuing to have a good football team is going to cost money. Right now, we've got him having to take these jobs in order to get it, but we need to realize as a fan base, hey, 8-4 is still a very good season that a lot of schools wish that they could regularly see as their floor of the last 3 years.
Yeah.
It's something we need to know. Yes, we have less money than other schools, but we need to continue pouring in where we can, however we can, if we want to see a continued success out of this team.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think UTSA, we got really, really fortunate with Traylor because Caleb, you had mentioned this, but Traylor's he's a Texas high school football legend, right? And his key advantage is those connections he has within Texas, and that's very likely one of the reasons why he didn't end up leaving to schools like Illinois or the other P5 programs that he's been offered over the past couple of seasons. And so I guess this year is sort of one of the first seasons where you're seeing these, openings, right? A&M, Baylor, Houston, all these things open up where he is obviously going to be a prime candidate. And it's one of the things where, everyone's kind of worried because he does fit the bill in a lot of ways. And personally for me, I mean, I think, I think the only schools that I would really see him leading to would be Texas or A&M. And Texas with Sark right now, I mean, Sark's basically secured at least another couple seasons. And with A&M and the new coach, they're probably going to keep him around at least for a little bit longer. They probably don't want to end up paying another, fired coach $23,000 a day to not coach. But I think we might be in a good position. I think for me, at least, it definitely seems like Traylor is like that one in a million type of coach who truly does walk the talk, where he says, hey, I care about my assistant coaches. I care about the people in my circle. And that's really who he's looking forward to. I mean, there was an interview, I think, with the O'Brien Award last year or the year before, where he was just saying, what do I need with all this money that I'm getting? Which obviously, look, at the end of the day, if you're getting paid, a massive check, I can never blame him for leaving. But it definitely seems so far, at least, that he's stuck to that. And I think UTSA has done a pretty decent job with compensating him, at least individually. Right now, I believe he's the second highest paid paid coach in the AAC, right behind Tulane, and he's higher paid than a lot of P5 coaches even right now. And so the area where we're lacking is really in that assistant coaching pool, and obviously other funds for things like NIL and just getting these other facilities that a top G5 program that hopefully wants to be P5 someday needs. But it's a good place to be. I think it's sort of the unfortunate truth about being a top G5 is if you lose, you're kind of damned if you lose and damned if you win, right? If you're losing, like nobody's paying attention to you and everyone's trying to fire you. And then if you're winning, you're always going to be kind of the talk of the town of, hey, it's not talking about, hey, how good your team is. It's about how likely your coach is going to leave. And so we're kind of in that very fortunate position to be in a place where we don't have to worry too much about that. But again, it is going to get to the point where, if we're not able to get some funding and get these things moving, I can definitely understand why he wouldn't stay. But I think we're definitely not at that point anymore.
And here's this for reference, Jeremy.
Yep.
Tulane's head coach Willie Fritz is also a candidate at University of Houston.
Yeah.
And he's paid roughly the same, if not a little bit more than Traylor.
Mm-hmm.
But Tulane just said in order to try to fend off the Big 12 coaches, they're going to be willing to spend up to $4.5 million a year if it means keeping Fritz.
Yeah.
So as far as you figuring out where Traylor ranks against other programs, very high in group of 5 schools, but in the Power 5 of these teams that are going to be poaching him, Tulane's willing to spend up to 4.5 to keep him from going to Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Houston right now, the coach that they had this season, Dana Holgerson, I believe he was making $4.3 million.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as knowing what it's going to take to stay up, a lot of schools are having to spend a lot more for their head coaches than we are.
100%.
Ours currently isn't asking for more than what he's making. He's simply asking for the guys below him to get taken care of.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's really, one of the biggest things going into next season, right? I mean, we obviously lost Will Stein, and at the end of the day, I don't think there was really any amount of money that we could have really kept Will Stein in. I mean, if you got a team like Oregon giving you their head offensive coordinator position, and offering the salaries they're going to offer you, you're probably going to end up, leaving. But any kind of buffer that we can have from having that kind of attrition is going to be important. And right now, at least, UTSA's defense playing the way they're doing. Jess Lote has absolutely been killing it. He's been with UTSA now for 4 seasons. This will be his 4th season, and I mean, you've just seen, especially this past season with Frank early on getting injured. I mean, the guy has absolutely been utilizing all the weapons we have and doing a killer job. Do you see him, staying with us going into next season, or do you think he might be at risk of getting poached?
It's always a possibility. I mean, again, we're paying an okay amount for our coordinators. We're getting a lot out of them. Will Stein, we knew, was doing a fantastic job last year. And when a school comes offering you a check that's 3 or 4 times what you're making in your current situation, you got to take it. There's nothing you can do there. There's nothing we could have done to keep him. Mm-hmm. And I mean, speaking of him specifically, there's probably a very good chance that he's going to get a head coaching offer to this offseason.
Yeah.
I mean, he just skyrocketed his success over the last 2 years. And we should hope that for Let. He continues success. It just helps bring in more and more people to try to develop here. Have more people that are #built by UTSA. It's not just the players.
Yeah, dude. I think, look, as a G5, especially with the new NIL format and everything that's going on, if you can be viewed as sort of this conduit where, hey, if you're an up and coming coach, you're top of the game, you play here for a couple seasons and you have the opportunity to go to the big leagues. Like, hey, dude, that's a hell of a lot better than, being a place where nobody wants to come to. I think, David, you mentioned this too before the podcast. Like, San Antonio, there's definitely something special here, especially with the recruiting and everything. I mean, look at UAW, FCS. They've been routine champions in their league, and they've just performed really, really well. And I think that's a lot of that. Isn't really about the school as much as about the location of where we are and just being able to attract that big level talent. I mean, you look at a place like Houston, and I posted this on Twitter before, but you make a lot of money and obviously the Big 12 and all that. But at the end of the day, as far as, marketing and competition goes, you're playing in a big city that has multiple professional sports there, right? You've got the Rockets, you've got the Texans, you've got Dynamo, you've got a lot of people vying for your attention. And, in San Antonio, 7th largest city in America, and the only real competition UTSA has, as far as eyes go, is the Spurs. And so, I posted this before. It's like, once we get to the point where the city is really behind our team, and, not just the fans and, the average people here, but like the companies here as well. I mean, you got HEB, USAA, Valero. You've got a lot of big money companies here that if they can see that value and start to, put in a couple of million, I mean, you don't got to be dropping in, tens of millions, just a million here, a million there. That can really be huge. And, that's sort of going to next season, especially with the new championship format. Right now, obviously, Tulane is going to be probably the G5 favorite when it comes to that wild card for the championship. But, with the new system, if UTSA can kind of figure things out in the next couple of seasons, we could have a bid to play literally on the biggest scale of college football. And that's something that I think is very attractive, that, if you go to a place like Houston, yeah, you're playing in the Big 12, but you're competing against, Texas Tech, a lot of these other bigger names as well. There's much less likelihood of you getting to that level than if you were willing to kind of build something here. And so, I completely agree with you guys. I think, again, very fortunate to have Traylor and the mentality he has behind us. And I do definitely believe that this is all a leverage game. And I think the nicest thing about it is you go to school like A&M, you go to school like UT, especially the past couple of seasons, you've got a board who is going to be breathing down your neck every season. I mean, you could even have an 8-4 season like we had right now, and they're not going to be satisfied. They're going to be really pushing you. And from my understanding right now with the dynamics, especially with the new program, Traylor has a lot of autonomy to kind of go around. Obviously, there is, the AD and everything, and it seems like the relationships are good, but it's not like he's sitting there worried about, oh man, if I lose this next game, I'm going to be fired. And I think that also probably plays a big role in the attractiveness of staying here. And even if you're an assistant coach, to come here and really kind of test things out and build off it. But going to next season, 2024, much easier out of conference schedule. We're playing Kennesaw State, probably pronounced that wrong, but playing them August 31st, Alamo Dome. After that, Texas State Bobcats in San Marcos. Longhorns going to be a big game again. DKR. Outside of that, HCU. I'm seeing a pretty nice schedule next year. I mean, obviously we're losing a lot of seniors, not going to have Frank, so we might see a slight regression. But outside of that Longhorns game, I think if we can kind of tighten things up, we could see a pretty dang good season next year as well. David, what are your thoughts for next season?
I think if we end up being one of those group of 5 teams that ends up getting that bid consistently or being right in the mix to get the bid, I think that coaching turnover goes down a ton. Because if you can get a coach that says, hey, I can go to this school and be in contention every year to make the college football playoff, where I can go be a bottom feeder in the Big 12, I think coaches want to play for that championship. They want to be in that opportunity. And so I think the better we get and the more support that we get and everything like that, it's going to cause less and less coaches turnover. So I think that's going to be a big thing moving forward with UTSA. Definitely. Is becoming that top tier group of 5 school.
Definitely.
And then with the schedule next year, I think it's going to be awesome. I think it'll be good for whoever comes in as the new quarterback to kind of they don't have to come out and play Tennessee right away. I think that'll be in Houston. I think that's going to be a big thing to gain confidence in a quarterback like that. Yeah, you're going to have to play Texas, but the other 3 games, those are going to be good games to get your feet under you and be able to understand the system and work through things, because there's going to be growing pains. Yeah. Anytime somebody new comes in, there's going to be growing pains. So I think if we can have a little bit easier schedule to where we can work those out mid-game and not be in danger of getting whooped, I think that's going to be really good for whoever comes in all the positions, not just quarterback. I think anybody that comes in new systems, it's just going to be a good way to grow and get better for that conference schedule that we're going to have next year.
100%. Yeah. And I think going into this season, especially, like, we've never had a season before where the hype was higher. Like, there were so many ESPN, Fox Sports, so many predictions that were saying UTSA is going to be the front runner in the G5. And so that obviously has a lot of pressure. And so when you have that kind of expectation now that you're not used to, and then you obviously, end up losing to Houston, you lose to Army, you lose to, obviously Tennessee, that can definitely be a monkey on your back. And so next year could kind of be a sleeper year for us where, hey, people are kind of counting us out, focusing more on Tulane and maybe some of these other programs. And we're kind of able to, fly under the radar a bit, rise through the ranks. Caleb, going into next year, how do you see us playing? Do you think we kind of regress as far as ending the season right now like 8-4, or do you think we maintain some competition, maybe even outperform?
I see 3 wins in those out of conference games.
Yeah.
So then to only need 5 wins in conference, mind you, again, not having Frank, not having Oscar in them, but still having a pretty solid core to build from. I think, at minimum bowl should be the expectation.
Yeah.
But we don't really know what we're going to have, but it's going to kind of be a building year, and it's going to be a really easy building year to go on. 8-4 should certainly be doable.
Mm.
Anything could happen. We could have a 1-loss team for all we know, right? And watch it not even be Texas. That's that loss, but we won't know what we have.
Yeah,
we have a lot to build on. There are a few things that got to get answered over the offseason before we can really start
thinking about how well this team's going to do next year.
Yeah, no,
I think one of the biggest things you have is you have those young guys on offense with Amador and Devin McEwen. Having those guys to be able to teach the new guys coming in that, hey, this is how we do things, is going to be amazing. And then you have Trey and you have Jamori on defense. I think those are guys that you can't replace. So having those guys being as young as they are and having them around for a little bit longer is going to be amazing for the new guys coming in to kind of build on top of.
Yeah, 100%.
Couldn't agree more.
I think if we get the offensive line figured out, man, you've got Clark obviously coming in, who's going to be a huge weapon if he's able to stay healthy coming in.
And then, we had a commitment coming in from Caleb Christian Mitchell recently. Nothing set in stone yet, but, he's a wide receiver from First Baptist Academy. He had offers from Arizona State, from other P5 programs, I think Boston College as well. The fact that he chose UTSA over that, we're in a good trajectory right now, I think, to really capitalize on that. As long as we don't have some crazy attrition happening from our coaching staff, I think we're in a good position. Now, I want to just toss this out to you guys. Nightmare scenario, right? Let's say for whatever reason, okay, Traylor says, hey, you know what, man, I'm tired of San Antonio. I'm tired of the breakfast burritos, whatever. Like, I'm going to go to Houston, or I'm going to go to Baylor, or wherever else offers them a job. In that event, who do you think UTSA needs to have on speed dial and say, hey, come out to UTSA, pick up this job? For me, I've talked about this a lot. I think Will Stein is the guy. I don't think if he comes here, he stays for a long time. But I think, having him here on board again, very familiar with our scheme, very familiar with our facility, our staff, I think he would be my number one pick. What are your all's thoughts? Who would be maybe the guy to call in the, winter contingency type of event that Traylor does end up leaving?
Will Stein's got to be number one. Clear favorite number one. In the event that happens, if not, I wouldn't mind us slowing whatever momentum is picking up I-35. Make that call to GJ Kinney.
Oh yeah.
Too many of these coaches that are coaching at UIW are trying to become future UTSA villains. We got Eric Morris going to North Texas. GJ Kinney going to Texas State. I'd be down to at least give him the interview.
Yeah. Yeah, it's time for us to be the big fish, right? Start poaching. Yeah, I mean, I think that's like the huge advantage that, I mean, I know with the trailer rumors, A&M and everything, a lot of people were like, man, this is it. Because you've seen so many college football teams, right? They do well, especially in the G5. They do well for a couple of seasons. And then after that, coach leaves, a few players leave, and, there's a huge drop off. And then it's like, that's it. What are you going to do now? And I think, I've always said this from the beginning is like, the secret to UTSA goes beyond just coaches. It's the fact that we're San Antonio, and it's just an incredibly rich, fertile recruiting ground. There's so many potential amenities here. There's so much growth potential. And I think, even from the beginning, right, with a guy like Coker coming in, former Miami head coach, won a national championship. And then even with Wilson, right? I mean, Wilson, top recruiter at LSU coming in. I mean, one of the things that all these guys have said is, we wanted to come to UTSA, right? UTSA didn't necessarily picked us. We picked UTSA because of the location, because of the potential. And Wilson, I think, was the one who coined it, but it was like, waking up the sleeping giant, which I think is, slowly starting to happen. I think the biggest thing keeping us from that really fully awakening is again, just funding, getting some of those big money donors behind us, which I'm sure will happen sooner than later if we can continue to go down the trajectory we're in. But we're, the magic of UTSA is really San Antonio, and it's just that very unique position where, I mean, what other big city can you point out where a college football team plays and they really don't have any other competition outside of one maybe professional sports team? They don't really have anyone else, and so I think we're in a really good position. It's stressful, obviously, as it would always be when you're a top G5, but it's much better to be in this position here than, I think, in my opinion, again, no offense to Tulane, than to be in Louisiana or some of these other areas where maybe, recruits and coaches are not going to be as willing to go because of the potential they see there. But yeah, no, I think good problems to have all around. Going into the bowl season right now, nothing set up again. What are y'all's predictions as who we play? People have thrown out, Big 12 team, Boston College, ACC. I guess, David, I'll start with you. Who do you think we play in the bowl game, and where do you think that's going?
I mean, I've been kind of looking at it just because big college football guys. So I think I've been seeing everybody's kind of pointing towards the Fenway Bowl against Boston College, which is going to be interesting just because we're a South Texas team. It doesn't get that cold here, and having to go to Boston and play a Boston team who's used to that, and the weather up there is not going to be warm. Yeah. It's December in Massachusetts. It's going to be cold. So it's going to be really interesting to kind of see how that plays out, just because that's not something we're used to. Even all the teams we play are all pretty much all in the South. Mm-hmm. So we've never really seen a game like that before. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to kind of see how that plays out, if that's where we end up going.
Yeah.
Hearing Fenway more and more, military bowls probably in play, and also cold Maryland. It's certainly going to be an interesting scenario that we're not used to, other than those two games against North Texas. We had one in 2013 that, I mean, it was ice cold, and then the one 2 years ago where it was really cold and rainy. Those are probably the closest that we've gotten to truly cold games that we've even played in.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the weather. I'm looking at the weather right now for Boston, and it's highs in the low 40s and high 30s. And raining and windy. And so it's just going to be one of those things that we could be like, I'm not saying it's going to affect us, but we could be totally out of our element when it comes to the weather. Just because, I get the North Texas games and stuff like that, but I don't think anything can prepare you for a northern cold.
We've got a month, man. I'd love to see us get in the Alamo Dome, get them to turn that air conditioner down to 50 degrees, maybe turn the sprinklers on or something, and, play a couple of rounds. But, yeah, that is something that I think I don't know. Have we ever played a game where we're, in a snowed condition or an icy cold condition? I don't think so, right?
I mean, the only game I can think of since we've been here that we've even played north is Illinois.
Yeah.
And that's the furthest north I can remember us playing, but that was in September.
Yeah.
UTSA certainly playing up in Boston or Maryland. That would probably be one of the coldest games that they've ever played in. I don't know if it's the coldest. It's a shame that neither of those options have roofs. To keep it 72 degrees, no chance of bad weather. But, is what it is. We can hopefully get a really nice bowl win out of it to finish off the season.
Yeah, I think for me, I'd love to see. I mean, I'm kind of a hype guy, so I'd much prefer us seeing a P5 team than a G5. And if it is Boston College, I think right now CBS has it December 28th at Fenway, 11 a.m. So should be an interesting time. And I think the good thing about UTSA is at least no matter where we play, we have a pretty good traveling base, and so that shouldn't be something that keeps us too far out of our element. But cold is definitely going to be something that we're going to have to figure out. But again, kind of maybe not the expectation end of the season. If you asked me early season, I would have probably said, hey, we're going to be a one-loss team against Tennessee. Obviously didn't play out the way we wanted to, but a bowl game win with Franks, last season here, potentially the first bowl game win that we ever have, will be a really great way to start off the off season and hoping things work out. But all good problems to have. But yeah, that pretty much ends our football coverage right now. Going to the next few weeks, Bob's not playing anything right now, so we'll keep you guys posted on anything we hear on the transfer portal, and hopefully Houston will figure out who they're going to pick within the next week or two. But I guess, Caleb, what do we got going on the other sports?
Today we had a double header at the Convo. It's a rare occurrence. Women's basketball tipped off at 5 against Texas State, unfortunately dropping 57-65, and it was followed about an hour later by the men's team tipped off at 8 against Lamar, chance to avenge the loss they had earlier in the season, and they took care of business. It was kind of a little bit of a roller coaster game. They ended up winning 86-83 though. I think I saw somewhere it's been well over 10 years since Lamar has actually won in San Antonio. So streak continues.
Yeah. And one of the questions, again, kind of, I guess, routing back to football really quickly, and this was something that some of the UAB fans in our chat were discussing, and this is more, I guess, politics based. I know with UAB, obviously being in the Alabama school system, had a lot of drama with them, getting shut out for a while. Obviously not wanting to have a whole lot of competition against Bama, and right now, with us being in the Texas system, definitely seems like we're allowed to have, I guess, a much longer leash. We don't have to worry too much about, the guys trying to keep us down. As we continue to see success, especially with football, do you see the Texas system viewing UTSA as potentially a threat and being like, hey, we got to kind of nerf them, sort of like what's happening with UAB and Alabama? Or do you think that's something that UTSA doesn't really have to worry about?
I don't think UTSA has to worry about that. I mean, Texas is going to the SEC, who in the next few years, maybe SEC and Big Ten just become their own premier division.
Yeah,
they are in leagues higher than UTSA, and not to mean that UTSA can't occasionally go into Austin and pull off a miracle here and there down the road. Certainly happened at A&M with App State last year.
Yeah.
But as far as being regularly good enough that the Texas system is going to try to squash and hold us down, I just don't see it happening. I don't think that they're ever going to bother us, and the backlash that they would have on worrying about another system school rising up, and the amount that they'd have to defend that decision. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah. David?
I'm a little surprised that Alabama ended up doing that to UAB. I mean, that was absolutely absurd what happened. I just don't see that happening here.
I think it's one of those things that Texas kind of knows that they're in the league of their own. They've been around for so much longer. They're consistently better. And on top of that, I think Texas is such a football state that it just wouldn't happen. I think Texas is just such a – football is Texas and Texas is football. And so I don't ever think you're going to have a team that's just – that they're just going to be like – or a system that's just going to be like, no. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% I agree. I think we're really fortunate to be where we are. Just with how, for all the recruiting grounds are, I mean, how many P5 teams do you have right now in Texas that are able to sustain themselves? That's not really something that is feasible, anywhere else. And I think, I completely agree. I think we should be good. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I heard, during this is all rumors, but I heard during the Texas game going in the second half, obviously UTSA was doing pretty well. There was a lot of fear going on. There were some rumors that our comms box got hijacked. Something happened, and coaches couldn't hear each other talk. And so there were some rumors that, hey man, maybe somebody came in there and cut the cord. But I think there's definitely more than enough pie to share. And yeah, just to close off this podcast, one of the things that I've been noticing on Twitter and on Facebook as well is, we've got some people listening in, people who are movers and shakers and maybe have connections with some of the bigger businesses in San Antonio. And if you guys had to sort of pitch something, right? Because we're always talking about funding. We're talking about, people, the average individual San Antonio fan, they've got to, put more money up. And at the end of the day, there's only so much money that, can be raised by the individual. It really takes some big money donors. If you are sort of in a boardroom or in an elevator and you're trying to pitch UTSA, right? You're trying to pitch the program, be like, hey, this is why you should invest in the program. What would be y'all's pitch? For me, I mean, I would be like, hey, just look at our record over the past few seasons. Look at our inaugural game, right? We broke the NCAA record attendance, almost 60,000 fans. Like the hunger, the potential is there. And then going into next season, especially with the new playoff formatting, if we're able to continually be a top G5 contender, you have the ability, if you're a sponsor or somebody who's willing to donate, to have a ton of marketing on the national stage for cents on the dollar compared to a lot of other programs. That's something that I would be pitching and being like, hey, this is why UTSA is a good investment. But in y'all's opinion, what would be sort of that pitch to get these big companies and businesses to be like, hey, we gotta back UTSA? And Caleb, I guess you can start with that.
Your money goes further here. I think what it cost UTSA a while back on roughly having an on-campus stadium at one point, UT poured that same offseason into their north end zone.
I mean, the biggest thing I think is you always hear people talk about, I should have done this before it became popular. I wish I would have invested in this before it blew up. I think UTSA is that. It's right on the bubble of becoming something amazing. And I think I would want people to get in on that before it becomes a big thing, because then you can say, I helped create that. Yeah. I think that's always the coolest thing is to be someone that's like, I was there before everyone knew about it. And I think you can get those companies that can invest or get those people to invest and be like, oh yeah, I helped do that. I did this, versus someone that's already established. You're kind of just another person to them. But to a school like us that's right on the cusp of being something great, you could be the person that sets this whole thing off. And I think for anybody, that would be an amazing opportunity, whether it's a company or a single person that says, hey, I want to be the person that's known for starting this. Because then once one person does it, then it's just a domino effect, and people are going to consistently be donating money. So I think wanting to get in on it before it becomes popular is the biggest thing.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think UTSA, it's just given the college football environment right now, it's just in such a special place because the reality, I mean, everyone can kind of see the writing on the wall. Next 5 years, 10 years max, you're going to probably end up having these premier leagues where it's, the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12 kind of in the back end, and then everyone else is leading up. And, outside Tulane and a couple other programs, I don't think there's anyone else other than UTSA that you can look at as an arbitrage opportunity where it's relatively speaking, it's a brand new program, yet we're super competitive. And, the only thing really keeping us from making that leap to, a P5 and really being on that level is just some funding. I mean, we've got the players, we've got the coaches, we've got players right now going into the NFL routinely. Whether you want to donate to the NIL fund, whether you want to, get a practice facility or something named after you, it's right open. And I think right now, at least, from my understanding, like compared to a lot of these other places, there's very little bureaucracy. And so you don't have to worry too much about, stepping a lot of toes and going through, a lot of levels to get to that. And, I think the best way I'd put it is like, right now, like it's like kind of like Apple, like you're trying to invest in it back in the early 2000s, late 1990s, like you're getting in really early. And I definitely think, the funding with the coaching staff we have with Traylor has said it in an interview already. A lot of people have shared that clip. He says, hey, if we get the funding we need for the assistant coaches to get paid, if we get the funding for the facilities we need to get built, we're not asking for $1 billion, AT&T Stadium out in Dallas. If we just get, a decent amount of funding to be competitive, Traylor said, he sees himself retiring here. And I think that's something that you are just not going to see in this day and age with any other coaching staff anywhere else. And so, I think we're in a good place. It'll be really interesting. I think right now going to next season, it's going to be very pivotal. We, as UTSA fans, have been very spoiled over the past 3 seasons. Last 2 seasons being ranked, obviously being back-to-back champs, almost getting into the AAC championship this year. Very, very spoiled. And this is sort of going to the next season. This is sort of that fork in the road where it's like, hey, are we going to be kind of a flash in the pan, or are we going to be something that we can really build on? And I think compared to almost any other program, there's no other place where whether you're a fan or you're an investor, you can get more bang for your buck. But that'll about wrap up our podcast for today. Appreciate you guys joining in. We will try to have another one set up for next week. It'll be obviously less football focused, but maybe a little more news on transfer portals and any coaching changes. And then obviously more attention put towards the other sports. But appreciate all of you guys joining in, and we will catch you next week.